Today on Spotlight, why teachers went to summer school to test out new science experiments. Plus, the history of Native American mounds and why they were destroyed before the World's Fair. And then students making lifelong memories outdoors, how this helps them explore a future career. But first, the story of Gaslight Square and how it was reimagined to what it is today. It's Sunday, and you're watching the multiple Emmy Award-winning Spotlight.
Back in the 1950s and 60s, Gaslight Square was the entertainment district in St. Louis. It covered an area of about 3 blocks near the intersection of Olive and Boyle in what is now the Central West End. It was known for its gas street lamps, ornate Victorian-style architecture, and especially for its entertainment venues.
Phyllis Diller would always talk about it. The Smothers Brothers would always talk about it. So yeah, there are a lot of people that knew about Gaslight Square, all the performers. The Allman Brothers, who were the Allman Joys back then, they got their start here. Woody Allen would perform here, Dick Gregory.
By the early 2000s, the arts and music scene had moved out and away from Gaslight Square. But all that changed, thanks to one man taking a random evening stroll.
And I was taking a walk one day about 20 years ago, and these buildings, as I walked down Boyle, just taking an evening walk, me stopped and I looked across the street, and these 2 beautiful turn-of-the-century buildings with no windows and no roofs in the middle of, really, the arts district is just up the street, and all these cars going past it on Boyle, and a for sale sign. I bought one building, and then to protect that investment, we bought this one. And what am I going to do with it? Oh, I'll button it up and see who wants to move in here. And then I was like, well, maybe a theater might be fun.
Roth turned that building into the Gaslight Theater and created his own theater company to perform there, the St. Louis Actors Studio.
We've produced over 100 plays now in 18 years. We have a patronage that's very loyal and accepts what we give them, and so are very interested in learning new things, and so they never squawk about the fact that we're not doing, and we do classics and things that they know and plays that have come off Broadway.
It's a small black box theater, which can limit what can be performed there. But that small size also provides an opportunity to present some new original works, as they do every summer with their LaButte New Theater Festival, providing playwrights with a chance to try something a bit out of the ordinary.
They do great, challenging work. They do a lot of plays that a lot of other theaters won't do. Not always the mainstream thing, not always the Broadway title recognition that's going to immediately sell tickets to a general public. People who come here, I think, are looking for a little more of a challenging piece, or a new piece, or a piece reinvented in some way, to keep the reason that we do theater alive. We don't do theater to do just entertainment. We have so many options for that. Turn on your TV, turn on your computer, watch your phone. These are things to gather people together and to have a conversation between your audience and some important issue being described and defined by a playwright on stage.
St. Louis Actors Studio is a small but mighty theater company that does big plays in a small space. It's an intimate space to see exciting theater.
For more St. Louis stories, subscribe to the HEC YouTube channel, Spotlight STL from HEC Media.
30-second timer starts now. We will see what happens after 30 seconds of mixing.
KJ Haywood is a middle school science teacher at Lift for Life Academy in St. Louis.
And we will see if these substances are soluble or insoluble.
Haywood and science teachers from other schools in the St. Louis area are really getting into some science experiments before bringing them into the classrooms this fall.
I think it helps them to understand how the world works, how things are produced, how they're made, how to mix different things together. So to me, STEM is just an all-encompassing of everything that they'll be faced with in life.
The teachers are part of the MySci program, created by the Institute for School Partnership at Washington University in St. Louis.
MySci is really about thinking about equity in science education, to think, how do we get excellent science in every school and really inspiring the next generation of scientists.
Starting with summer classes for MySci teachers.
So we really think that doing science is important instead of just reading about it.
So I was introduced to MySci my first year at Live for Life Academy. It's the science curriculum that we use. So I've come here to be able to learn more about the curriculum, how to use it in my classroom with my students, how to engage them more.
By engaging in science experiments from a student's perspective.
Here, let's try the lead. Connect the red alligator clip to the metal tip on one side of the battery.
What is the content? What are students doing? What does it look like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like? That was about like boiling point, or it was actually evaporation point. Fourth station was viscosity. And really like the point of these stations is for students to get the language and the concepts, teachers engaging in actual activities that they'll be teaching, but they get to engage in it from their students' perspective.
I really like the conductivity station. Kids that seeing that light bulb go off in their mind, they understand the concept. So I think that was a great one to really, for them to understand what conductivity is, how it works, different materials that actually have currents that run through them. How do lights turn on? You know, students hit a switch, but they don't understand what goes into that.
Some elementary teachers love science, and some are not as comfortable. And so it just kind of evens the playing field and makes it to where all teachers feel comfortable doing hands-on science.
MySci started small.
Some supplies, and actually we had like a MySci school bus where kids would like come into the bus and do some activities. And that was the beginning of MySci.
Then MySci became a much bigger deal.
The school said, these are wonderful. Can you make a comprehensive MySci program that would be for elementary and middle school that would cover all of the Missouri and national science standards?
MySci needed room to grow. This is the MySci Resource Center warehouse. Today, more than 13,000 MySci kits leave this warehouse, delivered to 265 schools across the St. Louis region. The MySci teachers are turning classrooms into learning labs.
Some of the vocabulary words introduced into them ahead of time, and then we would kind of go into the lab.
Helping to close the gap for tens of thousands of students.
Over 90% of the schools are using it in the St. Louis area. And so whenever you say, what is success? Whenever you think about the students that are in Oakville or Melville or U City or Parkway or St. Louis Public, Ladue and Clayton, they're all getting the same science. I'm really excited about the breadth of it and consider that a big success.
History Spotlight, brought to you by HEC Media and the Missouri Historical Society.
Hello, I'm Dr. Jody Sowell, president of the Missouri Historical Society in St. Louis, and this is History Spotlight. Forest Park was once home to multiple Native American mounds. The majority of them were destroyed to make way for the 1904 World's Fair. Public historian Amanda Clark tells the story.
When city leaders chose the land for Forest Park in the 1870s, they were drawn to the rolling hills, the thick forests, and the winding river that flowed through it. But when the park was picked as the site for the 1904 World's Fair, those same features became obstacles. Thousands of the trees were cut down, the river was buried in tunnels, and the hills were leveled. However, one important loss is rarely talked about today, and that's the destruction of a group of indigenous mounds near what is now Art Hill. Most people know about the famous mounds at Cahokia, just across the Mississippi River. Built by the Mississippian culture, they are part of a large ancient city. But St. Louis also had several groups of mounds on this side of the river, including exactly where the Gateway Arch stands today. As the city grew in the 1800s, nearly all of them were destroyed to make space for buildings and roads. The last remaining known mound in St. Louis is in the southern part of the city, near Highway 55 and Broadway, and it's now owned by the Osage Nation. Before the mounds in Forest Park were removed, the Missouri Historical Society hired anthropologist David I. Bushnell to study them. He found that some contained human remains, while others seemed to be the remains of homes that had collapsed and been buried over time. He believed they once belonged to a group of the Omaha tribe. Originally, there were plans to display the mounds and their contents at the World's Fair, but it's unclear if that ever happened. While these mounds were much smaller and newer than those at Cahokia, they were still important pieces of history that were marked on our natural landscape.
Next week on History Spotlight, trailblazing children's authors reshaping the landscape of inclusive literature.
To learn more about the Missouri Historical Society, visit mohistory.org.
HEC Media. Recognized, celebrated, honored time and again for excellence in the industry. Find all of the award-winning content at hecmedia.org.
This summer, North County students didn't just play outside. They connected with nature, science, and their future. We're taking a look back at how the Audubon Nest program turned summer fun into hands-on learning and lifelong memories.
It's really a nature-based opportunity for them to interact in the outdoors, to make lifelong memories, hopefully.
For these North County students, summertime fun is also educational. Plus, it's cultivating respect and a passion for protecting our environment. The program is called NEST, and it's a collaborative effort facilitated by the Audubon Center at Riverlands.
NEST, Nature Education for Students of Tomorrow, is a umbrella of programs, which includes a Cradle to Career offering that we largely do with Ferguson Florissant schools. And the whole idea is to create pathways from early age through high school.
The program, which has multiple modules, started in 2010, but it has evolved over the past decade and a half. Today, we are taking a peek inside the Little Creek Summer Camp, which is for students in grades 3 through 5.
I really like canoeing, archery, play games with my group, and just have a lot of fun.
Teamwork, how to fish and canoe, and how to experience nature stuff.
10-year-old James Knowles has about a half dozen years of fishing under his belt.
I've done fishing since I was 4 or 5 years old.
When you have spent half of your life fishing, you'll learn a thing or two about the sport.
So tell me how many fish you caught today in total?
5.
And you had to throw them all back?
Yeah. And I helped other people in my group out, so to get off the hook. Fishing is fun, but I really like when we play the games here. Also, I like turtle tracking.
While there are real turtles at the park, outfitted with tracking devices, these students are tracking toy turtles. But the principle, it's the same.
We have over 25 written curriculum lesson plans aligned with NGSS standards. So it's really great for schools that are looking to do field trips and get an experience out on the Mississippi River and at the sanctuary.
Each group of campers is led by a counselor from one of the local high schools. They're known as the Flight Crew.
It's been so much fun. I think it's been beyond my expectations. I really didn't expect myself to be enjoying being a counselor, but here I am.
Oh my goodness, look at that. We play games with them. We make sure to build strong bonds with each of our campers.
They honestly grew my love for nature. Beforehand, I was oftentimes a little off-put because of the heat and the bugs and things like that, but they made me love it.
This is an opportunity for them to really get exposure to STEM careers. So they're meeting professionals and different partner organizations all across the St. Louis region. They're getting hands-on experience doing things like restoration projects, removing invasive species from wetlands, doing mock bird surveys. So it's really kind of a crash course in learning about all the different careers that you could potentially do.
These camp counselors are known as the Flight Crew in keeping with the mission of the Audubon Center. Flight Crew is the Audubon Center at Riverlands' 7-week summer internship.
So you're with part of Flight Crew then?
When the interns reach this level, it has become more than a passing interest, and they are truly considering college career preparation for these kind of jobs. And they are also looking at potentially doing more volunteer and internship work while they're going to college.
These high schoolers are taking part in the Audubon Center's job fair to learn more about careers in conservation.
We program these computers basically to take like hourly images, top-down images of like germinating seed or side views of plants as they're growing.
So they're often surprised to learn there are careers here and that people are actually working every day to conserve and protect natural resources, which we all need, not just birds and wildlife, but people too.
I got introduced to this line of work in a very similar way.
Antonio Brazelton is a PhD candidate at WashU. He's one of a handful of collard enthusiasts in the country whose mission is to study, preserve, and popularize close to 20 different varieties of collard greens.
It was my first time seeing black plant scientists. I was at Alabama. We were at Alabama A&M University for the summer. And it kind of sparked this like, oh, I could lead the world doing this work.
To talk about what would be needed to increase the amount of people and diversity of people working in conservation, and how do we attract them? Well, the thing that came up overwhelmingly was experience, and internships was a great entry point.
Later on Spotlight, honoring servicemen and women with thousands of flags on Art Hill. Mark your calendars. The 2025 St. Louis Art Fair returns September 5th through the 7th. Get a sneak peek at the talent behind the canvas with HEC Media's Meet the Artist series. Before you even step foot at the fair, discover in-depth insights into each artist's creative process and what inspires their work. Watch now at youtube.com at Who Else Loves Art and look for the 2025 St. Louis Art Fair playlist.
I'm Larry Allen. I create pottery. I create vessels thrown on a wheel, and then I do my carving designs on them. Sgraffito is called. So I do those designs and then I glaze them in fire. Pottery came across much later in my life. It came across in college though, but I had a job in the art department and that was a guy throwing on a wheel. And the first time I ever seen anybody throwing on a wheel in my life. And it just stopped me in my tracks. And I stooped down and watched him finish that pot. And when he finished that pot, I was hooked. It's the discipline of it. I think it's the 3 P's, the persistence, patience. You have to be patient when you're doing something. And then you have to practice. And so those 3 things really, really captivated me because I realized that that was my nature. I consider myself an artist potter. So there's the craftsmanship with just the pottery involved. And then there's the artists which want to make a statement. And so in my work, I try to come up with the statement that I can make in my work when I'm doing my design. And it really came about after 9/11. The aftermath of 9/11, I saw it as a unifying moment, and it struck me so that it was probably a fleeting moment. And I realized that that was a message that needed to be pushed, basically. And so I started doing these unity designs. I call them unity designs on my vessels. And they started out with these stylized figures of people united around the vessel. And then over time, they transform into a shape which I can do some more architectural forms, because I've always been interested in Gothic architecture. And so when I started coming in with the columns and things like that, it started adding coin pattern. It just fit the mode of thinking that I was in. I don't try to shortchange my work. I try to really create something that I think is timeless myself. I think it's something that over time people can look at and appreciate from generations to come. And so I like the idea that people recognize that. I'm one of those people that think seriously about my work, and I think about my work in perpetuity. that it can transcend the time that I'm living in.
Today is the last day to see Larry and all the 2025 St. Louis Art Fair artists on display in downtown Clayton. Head on down to the fair and don't forget, stop by the Spotlight STL booth. We're at the corner of Merrimack and Forsyth. You can find the stories featured in today's show along with past episodes and more at hecmedia.org/spotlight. 2021 marked the 20th anniversary of 9/11. Flags of Valor St. Louis commemorated the event by placing over 7,000 flags on Art Hill to pay tribute to the United States service members killed in the line of duty since 9/11.
When you walk here and once they put the dog tags up, what you hear is tinkle, 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 tinkle. It's haunting.
Putting up 7,582 flags for all the military that were killed after 9/11. You say 7,000 and you can't comprehend that number until you walk through the flags and realize every one of those is a man or a woman who died, left the family. It's just incomprehensible how many people, nobody can grasp that until they walk through these flags and realize that those were all people that had a future and decided to volunteer for the military service and protect this country. We have 500 volunteers that were part of putting the flags together. We did that on weekends all through the middle of June, all through the end of July. And so those same volunteers now are back here to put the flags up, and they will also be back here to take the flags down.
And the numbers and the dog tags are the most important part. The flags, straight up and down.
It's about perfection, not about speed. Think of it this way, that if you're the family member of someone that's fallen, you come to the hill, your flag doesn't look like the rest, you'll feel a little bit slighted. So let's make sure that we have them all perfect. Make sure that the flags are set up at the top, that they're straight and tight. Everything else is perfect. If it's not perfect, take it down and do it again.
Working with U.S. Special Forces in 2002 and then work all through those 16 difficult and hard years until September 2018. I'm helping people put the flags for those who lost their lives in Afghanistan. This is for me like I'm picking up my dead parent brother who lost their life. Then when I take this flag here, that means I'm hugging my those brothers.
So she was the chief foreign disclosure officer, sharing information with the Afghan military intelligence. And she was killed on May 20th, 2009, on her way to an intelligence sharing mission on the road between Kabul and Bagram.
She passed in 2006 in Iraq, 2 years before I was born, so I never got to personally meet her, but I've been able to hear stories, and everyone in my family says I look like her, so I often get called Amanda. I share the same middle name with her. I think it's an honor to be able to look at all these flags, because you look at these flags and you're able to know that the people here today, they have lost a loved one, and they're able to stand here and they're able to honor their memory, placing these flags out for all of these brave individuals who risk their lives trying to save our country and keep it the place that it is today, that we have our freedom.
My son was Specialist Jackson Johnson. He was killed in Kuwait March 5th, 2019. He wanted to serve his country. He wanted to do something to make the world better. It's a mixed emotions of heartwarming, of heartbreak, of honor, respect. It's just a mixed emotions, just as a Ghost Star mom, looking at every flag that is honoring every fallen soldier from 2001 till now.
Yeah, this means a lot to me. This reminds my fallen brothers, which we lost in the war in Afghanistan. And that means they will never forget, and no one will forget them. And they're always in our heart. Their place is here.
But there's so many more people that have risked their lives to keep this country the way it is, and the people should be grateful and they should honor those people's memories.
I want them to think of their freedom and what that means to them, and not just remember every fallen soldier, but remember all the military that's still out there fighting for their freedom and giving their all to protect each and every one of us around the world. It's not just about the fallen soldiers, it's about the ones enlisted and left behind to battle as well. But we just ask that people say their names. Remember them. Don't let their memory or their existence die away.
Next week, a story about one of Missouri's largest battles in Civil War history. Plus, learning to grow food better on Earth and in space. Thanks for watching Spotlight. Join us next Sunday at 9:30 a.m. on KPLR 11.